Welcome to the Jenna Ellis Show, sponsored by Legacy Precious Metals. There has never been a better time to invest in precious metals. Visit legacypminvestments.com. That's legacypminvestments.com. Good evening and welcome to Jenna Ellis Tonight. So Republicans are still lashing out against Democrats, and I think rightly so, for their dismissal before trial of the two impeachment articles against Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas that happened in the afternoon on Wednesday. But to Speaker Johnson's point that he has reiterated over the last couple of days, this goes also to now Biden's border policy that is left unchecked. Mayorkas can apparently just do whatever he wants and enact all of the policies of Biden that he wants, really without any sort of accountability or responsibility under the U.S. Constitution. So what is the political and practical fallout of this in terms of the border crisis that we know is facing America and is the number one issue for voters from exit polls now heading into 2024? Was this maybe a bad call for Democrats? Joining me now is Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, who is the chair of the Dallas GOP and also hosts the Steadfast and Loyal podcast. Alan, thanks so much for joining. Your take on, you're there in Texas, a very, the border is right there in your state, but I think the border actually affects all of us in the United States, as we've seen with the exit polling. What is going to be the political and practical fallout of this Senate vote?
Well, it's very simple that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats have no issue with the fact that, Dallas right now is the number 2 city in the United States of America for sex trafficking, top cities in the United States of America for human trafficking. Obviously, the Democrats don't care about hundreds of thousands of Americans that have lost their lives because of fentanyl, 1.5 to 2 million gotaways, people we have no idea who they are, or the fact that you have 35 to 40,000 single military age males Chinese being released into the country, on top of the fact that we have close to 1 million single military age males that are freely operating here in the United States of America. So when you think about Laken Riley, what Chuck Schumer said today is that I really don't give a damn about Laken Riley. The fact that this illegal came across the border in Texas, somehow got to New York, was released in New York City after, committing crimes and came down here, or he doesn't care about the violent criminals that we have in this country as well. So this is a very bad look for the Democrat Party, and hopefully the Republican Party will nail them on this, because this is a critical issue, as you articulated.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. And I have more hope, frankly, in the states and in the state legislatures. I mean, when we look at how Texas is shaping up in terms of the primaries and in terms of some of those wins of ousting some of the, Republicans in name only that are Democrat light, when we see what's going on in Florida, some of these other red states, I have more hope than Congress doing anything about it besides, some strongly worded letters and then Speaker Johnson sending, the aid package to Ukraine to the floor anyway. And so in terms of what red states need to do at this point and the hope that we have for November, how do you see that playing out?
Well, red states need to stand up and understand, once again, invoke the Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, Clause number 3, that the federal government has failed in their enumerated duty and responsibility. The Democrats have dismissed their constitutional duty and responsibility. They have said that the Secretary of Homeland Security, his lying to the American people, is acceptable to them, and they dismissed the charges about that. So the states need to step up and to protect the American people and let the federal government know, Republican, Democrat, or whomever, is that we're not going to continue to allow this massive invasion that is causing an incredible, criminality burden and healthcare burden, education burden on the American people, not to mention the financial burden of trying to provide these individuals taxpayer-funded benefits.
Yeah, and it's absolutely disgusting when you see what the Democrats are doing and that they literally do not care about the safety and security of Americans, and they don't care about our U.S. Constitution. But it seems like, Republicans just really aren't doing much other than, like we've just talked about, the state level Republicans I have a little bit more faith in. But when we look at what just happened with the impeachment of Mayorkas and how the Democrats just voted it down, they didn't even allow evidence to be brought forward or a trial in the Senate. I've been saying for a while, Alan, that the Republicans should have instead impeached Joe Biden. But I think this would have been the same outcome.
Well, that's okay. But if it's the same outcome, once again, it shows that the Democrats completely do not believe that it is their constitutional duty to protect the sovereignty of the United States of America and to abide by the Constitution, especially at a time when you hear the Democrats always, chirping along about threats to democracy. They are the greatest threat to our representative democracy. They want illegals to be counted in the census, which will skew our representative democracy. They want illegals to be able to vote, to have driver's licenses, which gives them picture ID, which enables them to vote by way of the 1996 motor voter law. So again, this is a great messaging opportunity for the Republicans, and I just pray and hope that they won't allow it to pass it by. I will not allow it to happen here in Dallas County, that's for certain.
Yeah, I know you won't, and you're one of the best messengers out there. So I hope that Republicans in other states kind of take a cue from you and some of the others that are, really fantastic on this. Why do you think Republicans are so bad at messaging? I mean, look at the abortion issue. That I mean, in
Yeah.
Arizona, it's like we snatched defeat from the jaws of victory right away. I mean, it's utterly, utterly discouraging.
I just think that the Republicans, men and women, they have a problem with putting on their big boy and big girl pants. They do not have the same level of tenacity that the progressive socialist left, the Marxists have, and they need to start getting out there and calling a ball, and a strike as they see it. I don't think it's any debate anymore that the Democrat Party that we know and understand today, controlled by the far left, they hate America. And when Barack Obama talked about fundamentally transforming the United States of America, look at what has happened. They are undermining the sovereignty of this constitutional republic.
Yeah, and I said on social media the consternation of a few Republicans even that the vote for the presidential election boils down simply to this: you can vote for the communist or the non-communist. And a few people were like, "Oh, Joe Biden's not a communist," and everything, but then you don't understand his ideology. You don't understand the Marxism that is implicit in trying purposefully to tear down Western civilization. I mean, how would you answer that question or that commentary of, "Oh, Joe Biden's not a communist"? I think that's an apt term.
It is a very apt term. The thing that people have to understand is that socialism is an economic model, and socialism leads toward a societal change, a societal model, which is called communism. And that's the basis of Marxism, is to separate and divide people by socioeconomic differences. But now this cultural Marxism in the left has taken complete hold. And when you combine what we just saw happen there in the United States Senate by dismissing these charges against Mayorkas, and the fact that the Democrats are fully embracing, pro-Hamas supporters, Islamic terrorist supporters here in the United States of America, that tells you all you need to know. They truly do hate this country, and they truly do want to fundamentally transform it into a socialist Marxist state.
They do. We'll be right back with more here on Jenna Ellis Tonight. Throughout history, there are clear moments that define our nation's path, and now you can own a piece of that history. I'm thrilled to announce the official Newt Gingrich contract with America coin from our friends at Legacy Precious Metals in partnership with Speaker Gingrich. This limited edition 1 ounce, 99.99% silver coin commemorates the historic victory in 1994 when the Republican Party, under Speaker Gingrich's guidance, took control of Congress. The Newt Gingrich contract with America coin also symbolizes the transformative political platform that led to the landmark achievements like the overhaul of the U.S. welfare system and the Balanced Budget Act. This is a limited edition coin that will sell out. So whether you're looking for the perfect gift or you want to own a piece of history, act fast before they run out. The Newt Gingrich contract with America coin is more than an investment. It's a tribute to honest government and America. You can order it online at newtgingrichsilvercoin.com. That's newtgingrichsilvercoin.com and use promo code Jenna, that's JENNA, to get $10 off your purchase. Go to newtgingrichsilvercoin.com now. In one of the most horrific stories of the week, there was a bishop in Sydney, Australia, that was stabbed multiple times while he was teaching from the pulpit. And according to Sky News Australia, 4 people were actually stabbed. And this didn't really seem to have any sort of connection to any kind of purpose, just a targeted attack against people of the Christian faith. And we have some footage of this. We have blocked out uh, the actual incident. You can still make out what happened, but if you're watching with kids, just know we're going to be playing this footage, so go ahead and roll it. And reports of the latest reports have said that this bishop will be okay, even though, of course, he was hospitalized after this incident. So let's bring in my next guest, John Amanchukwu, who is a pastor and activist with TPUSA Faith. And John, these types of incidents are just, it seems like they're on the rise, these types of just heinous, barbaric acts that seem to just be totally random, but yet targeted specifically at Christians. But we even see things like, the young woman who decided to just butcher an Uber driver. I mean, things that are just totally barbaric that I think are going to a central premise of a worldview that is anti-God, anti-human beings being made in the image of God, and now we're seeing the tragic results.
Yes, I'm praying for all of those who are impacted at this church of Christ the Good Shepherd, the bishop who was impacted by this, and just to see this take place during a service while he was rendering a message to the Lord and to his congregation, just to see this criminal, this sinister person, this hate-filled Muslim man walk up to him and begin to stab him unnecessarily. It just makes no sense, but it speaks to the anti-Christian bigotry that we have seen, and that's on the rise under the Obama-Biden administration. And I said that the right way, that there's a hatred and an animus that people have towards Christians in America, and that's even spread to Sydney, Australia, and all around the country and all around the world. And so I believe that we should stand against these things. I oftentimes speak up and against anti-Semitism. We should stand for truth. We should pray for the peace of Israel. We should defend our Jewish brothers and sisters, but we need to talk more about anti-Christian bigotry that's taking place all around the globe. We must bring an end to that. And what we saw take place in that video is just the tip of the spear of what is really going on in our world.
That's so well said. And it seems like the left is fine with literally any idea or any way you want to identify other than being a Christian or conservative. That's the only view that they will not tolerate. And we're seeing the absolute hatred, and I think you rightly term it bigotry against Christians. So, how should Christians respond in America, but also abroad?
Well, first and foremost, we need to commend and thank our founding fathers that gave us the First Amendment and the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. That's very important. I say to everyone out there that you should practice these 2 amendments, the freedom of speech and the right to bear arms. You should do that. I believe that every church needs to be prepared with security and to have the proper staff in place to protect our good shepherds as they preach to our congregations. I believe that he should have been met with fire. He should have been met with fire when he walked into that church and walked down the aisle and began to stab that bishop. So I say to those who are out there, arm yourselves likewise. As we see an uptick in anti-Christian bigotry, they are coming after all of us. Now, whether or not we will be stabbed or harmed in that manner is one thing, but we will be canceled. We will be deplatformed. We will be censored. We will experience people trying to use anything possible to shut down the message of Christ. And as bold lions for the King of Kings and for the Lord of Lords, we must resist.
Very, very well said. And the Christian is called to stand up for truth, regardless
Yeah.
of the consequences, whether that's cancellation or something even greater. But we can protect ourselves and we can be wise as well. And what does it say to you, Pastor Amanchukwu, that it seems like a lot of these perpetrators are younger and younger, and they have already such a hate filled, godless worldview that
Mm.
they're just taking this meaninglessness of life as they see it out in increasingly violent ways. And this happened in Sydney, Australia, but there are a myriad examples of instances in the United States, with younger and younger perpetrators, even against each other. And how can America survive a younger generation that doesn't have hope for the future?
Well, when you remove the Bible and prayer from the public school system, when you rid yourself of the 10 commandments, when you create a society that has no moral compass, and that we begin to think that truth and morality stems from man rather than from God, who gives us all the basis for absolute truth, you begin to spiral downward. And that's where we are. We have outsmarted ourselves. We thought that getting rid of God was going to solve the problems of the public school system. That's what we thought. And as we continue to see this trend to rid society of Judeo Christian principles, I want you to know that these things will take place more and more. I'm actually shocked that it doesn't happen more than it already does. As sin abounds, the hearts of many will grow cold. There was a coldness in the heart of that Muslim man that led him to attempt to kill and assassinate this bishop. There's a hatred there. And Christ lets us know that first and foremost, the world hated him. So therefore, the world is going to hate us. But we cannot shrink back because Christ has overcome, and so shall we.
Amen and amen. And, even so, come quickly, Lord Jesus, when we have a perfect justice that will be enacted on this earth finally. And until then, we do need to stand our ground, boldly speak truth, and remember that the Great Commission talks about teaching all of the things that Christ has commanded until the end of all things. And Pastor John, I so appreciate you standing boldly for truth in civil society, church, and family. We'll be right back with more here on Jenna Ellis Tonight. As you know, my friend Mike Lindell has a passion to help everyone get the best sleep of their life. He didn't stop by simply creating the best pillow. Mike created the Giza Dream bed sheets. They look and feel great, which means an even better night's sleep for me, which is crucial for my busy schedule. Mike found the world's best cotton. It is ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. Mike's Giza sheets come with a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty. The Giza Dream Sheets come in a variety of sizes and colors. Mike's latest incredible deal is the sale of the year. For a limited time, you will receive 50% off the Giza Dream Sheets. You will also receive a set for as low as $29.98. So go to mypillow.com, click on the radio podcast square, and use the promo code Jenna. There you will find not only this amazing offer, but also deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the MyPillow 2.0 mattress topper, which I have and I love, the MyPillow kitchen towel sets, and now even flannel sheets and so much more. We definitely need flannel sheets for as crazy as all of this weather has been lately. So go to mypillow.com and make sure you use the promo code Jenna or call 1-800-564-8475. That's 1-800-564-8475 and use the promo code Jenna. Well, if you were not thoroughly convinced already that mainstream media is not unbiased and institutions and outlets like NPR are not just here to, make our lives better and inform you and you decide. Well, NPR has now suspended one of their veteran journalists for blowing the whistle. So this headline coming from Fox News today. NPR suspends veteran editor who blew the whistle on liberal bias at the organization. NPR has suspended veteran editor Uri Berliner after he detailed his employer's absence of viewpoint diversity last week in a stunning rebuke of the news organization. NPR media reporter David Fulkenflick reported the 5-day suspension without pay began on Friday. Berliner penned a bombshell piece in the Free Press that criticized NPR's coverage of Russiagate, the COVID lab leak theory, Hunter Biden's scandalous laptop embrace of the theory of systematic racism, and accused the organization of downplaying anti-Semitism following October 7th. So this coming as a new CEO was announced back in January for NPR, and she has started now back in March. And so a lot of criticism and looking back at some of her former tweets have really enlightened us as far as the CEO of NPR is concerned. These are just a couple of the tweets that have been making the rounds on social media from Catherine Marr, who is now the CEO. So she tweets this: I know that that hysteric white woman voice. I was taught to do it. I've done it. It's disturbing. It's a disturbing recognition. And then we can go to the next one. So she says lots of jokes about leaving the US. I get it. But as someone with cis white mobility privilege, I'm thinking I'm staying and investing in ridding ourselves of this specter of tyranny. She also previously posted, and I'm white, so my hair doesn't automatically carry with it the freight of my race worth and everyone else's encoded assumptions and biases. And then finally, this one, I mean, sure, looting is counterproductive, but it's hard to be mad about protests not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression founded on treating people's ancestors as private property. And these tweets, while they were posted by an account over this past week, they go back, years and decades ago. So this has shown a worldview of a woman who has been pretty consistently extreme leftist. Joining me now is the host of That Kevin Show, Kevin McCullough. So, Kevin, lots of problems at NPR. What do you make of it?
Well, I think that it's kind of odd that the folks over at Fox News would use the word stunning revelations to come out of NPR. I mean, this has been the kind of pablum that they've been peddling for many, many years. And the biggest problem that I have with it is not that an organization has a voice or a perspective, but the fact that our taxpayer dollars underwrite a large majority of the functioning of the national public broadcasting operation, both NPR and the television version of that, the National Public Broadcasters Foundation. So we're talking about using the taxpayer dollars that you and I contribute to fund this kind of river of verbal diarrhea coming back at us on a regular basis. And yes, I don't know where Fox News has been, but this has been the mode of operation for NPR for a long time. And I'm sorry for Mr. Berliner's circumstances, but hello, go talk to Juan Williams about this. He was experiencing this exact same fallout nearly 10 years ago. So the only thing I've really learned from NPR is that, yeah, they're committed to the left-wing biased viewpoint, and they really, really aren't going to do anything about it.
Yeah, well, I think that that Fox News and other outlets have to use, stunning, bombshell, and some of this other clickbait term in their headline just to get people to open it, because there seems to be just this, over saturated noise of news anymore. But I think you're right that that's not really an apt adjective to describe this story. But to your point, Kevin, I think that it's correct that NPR is using taxpayer-funded, dollars to go toward this obvious bias. I mean, imagine if taxpayers were funding Fox News. The liberal left would be
or the Salem
in an
News
outrage
Channel.
about
Like,
it.
what
Right,
if they were
exactly.
paying for our way to be on the air tonight? Absolutely.
Hey, why not? I mean, if they're getting taxpayer dollars, why shouldn't all of the other viewpoint networks have the ability to use those types of resources? So, why hasn't anyone in Congress
Well,
addressed
and
this? Why don't
I'm
Republicans
sorry to
do
interrupt, but let me put a button on what you were just saying, because NPR knows categorically that if they were ever forced to be in a for-profit environment where they had to put out a product that competed with the other viewpoint networks to stay afloat, they would go under. If it was not
Of course.
for the federal government propping them up with all the subsidies that they get, there would be no NPR because there's no demand for what NPR is offering. I mean, this is why they have so many fundraisers on the air all the time. And the only time they play family friendly stuff is when they're actually trying to raise money. The rest of the time, they're trying to look down their noses at us and tell us what judgmental bigots we are about most of the things that we believe that are just really everyday common sense.
Right. And, and yet they try to position themselves as this, completely unbiased, just middle of the road commentary. And, I've heard even a lot of Uber drivers that listen to NPR I've asked a few of them, like, hey, so why do you listen to NPR? Well, because I hope that it won't offend anybody in my car because, and this was in DC, of course, and they're saying, it's middle of the road. And I'm thinking, no, it's really not. But that's how they try to advertise themselves. And it's totally false. So just in the last minute or so we have here, Kevin, why isn't anything being done about this type of government funding to NPR when clearly they should have to make their way in the world like the rest of us capitalists?
Well, I think that part of it is just, to be honest, the fatigue of all of the more important things that the American people are dealing with. But until the American taxpayer says, I'm not going to spend money on that anymore, they're going to keep getting their subsidies the same way as the failing public schools do, the same way that so many things are that our tax dollars go for that we don't. I mean, you're a hardworking lady. I'm a hardworking man. I've got a family to support. We don't have the time to trace down and check the box of everything that our tax dollars are getting spent for, is it getting spent on. And our elected leadership is failing us in terms of really representing what we want. But let's just be really clear about this. NPR is not going to change. And the only way they will change, friends, is if you and I stop, giving them the breath of life to keep going with, because the longer that we continue to fund them, the more they're going to shovel this stuff right back at us.
Well said. And this is why you should be watching hosts like Kevin and me here at Salem, because we actually want to provide you a perspective that is conservative. And a lot of these networks, as we've talked about, Kevin, do have perspective. It's which perspective are you going to support? So we're grateful for all of our listeners. And that's all the time that we have here on Jenna Ellis Tonight. Make it a great weekend. I'll see you Monday. Throughout history, there are clear moments that define our nation's path, and now you can own a piece of that history. I'm thrilled to announce the official Newt Gingrich contract with America coin from our friends at Legacy Precious Metals in partnership with Speaker Gingrich. This limited edition 1 ounce, 99.99% silver coin commemorates the historic victory in 1994 when the Republican Party, under Speaker Gingrich's guidance, took control of Congress. The Newt Gingrich contract with America Coin also symbolizes the transformative political platform that led to the landmark achievements like the overhaul of the U.S. welfare system and the Balanced Budget Act. This is a limited edition coin that will sell out. So whether you're looking for the perfect gift or you want to own a piece of history, act fast before they run out. The Newt Gingrich contract with America coin is more than an investment. It's a tribute to honest government and America. You can order it online at newtgingrichsilvercoin.com. That's newtgingrichsilvercoin.com and use promo code Jenna, that's JENNA, to get $10 off your purchase. Go to newtgingrichsilvercoin.com now. Well, as we are consistently reading headlines about the left's attempts to indoctrinate children, especially in government funded schools, and we shouldn't call them public schools because they are government funded institutions, we need to, as conservatives, always be concerned about parental rights. So there is a brand new book that is an excellent resource that is titled The Parent Revolution by Corey DeAngelis, Rescuing Your Kids from the Radicals Ruining Our Schools. So Corey joins me now, and he is a fellow at the senior fellow for the American Federation for Children. So, Corey, thanks so much for joining. And what is this book all about in terms of a resource to help protect parental rights and our children against government indoctrination?
Hey, thanks for having me, Jenna. This book goes into a lot of the wins that we've been having over the past 3 years when it comes to school choice, allowing your taxpayer dollars to follow you to the school that works best for you. That could be a public school, private school, or even a home-based education option. We've had 11 states pass universal school choice, all Republican-led states. in the past 3 years. And it's because the teachers unions really overplayed their hand and awakened a sleeping giant, which happens to be parents who want more of a say in their kids' education. The unions fought to keep the schools closed as long as possible. They blamed COVID, but they just wanted ransom payments from the taxpayers. They were able to leverage those school closures for more taxpayer money. Although that worked for them in the short run, it backfired in the medium to long run because families got to see what was happening in the classroom. And parents who thought their kids were in good public schools based on their test scores started to see something else was going on here. The tests weren't measuring everything about school quality. Families started to see that their kids were being indoctrinated with radical left ideology. Some families were upset about CRT, others about gender ideology, maybe even both. And that led to families fighting for the ability to take their children's education dollars to the school that aligns with their values. And now we have teachers union bosses, like some in Wisconsin, for example, that are their minds are exploding over this book already. One of them actually called on Twitter to burn the book. The same people saying that conservatives want to ban books, which that we aren't. We're just saying that sexually explicit content shouldn't be available in elementary school libraries. Those same people, you have a teachers union executive board member in Wisconsin calling to burn my new book. So it would really ruin her day if you went and ordered a copy today. It's available on Amazon and basically everywhere else. Parent Revolution.
So if you want to tweak a liberal, then definitely get Corey DeAngelis's book. And Corey, I remember in the early days of the homeschool movement because I was homeschooled K through 12, and this has been many years ago now. So I mean, when we're talking like 20, 30 years ago of the homeschool movement, it used to be that the way to kind of recapture America and ensure that our values, American Judeo-Christian values, would persist is simply to outbreed the liberals because homeschool families, by and large, have more kids than the average leftist that doesn't even want kids or maybe might have one vanity child. And yet, with the radicalization of these institutions now, I mean, you make the point that leftists don't even have to have children if they're capturing ours. So, how can we as conservatives change that model?
Right. It's a great thing that families got to see what was happening through Zoom school. To see this has been happening for a long time. The radical left has seen the school system as a way to inculcate their values to the rest of society. They don't even have to have their own kids. And so they can control the minds of other people's children using the school system for 7 hours a day for 13 years of their lives from K through 12 education, even more if you're counting college as well. And it's hard to fight against that. We've long talked about Hollywood having control over a dominant institution and inculcating a leftward bias throughout American society. But the school system, I would argue, is much more powerful because these are young children, impressionable minds, and you have the left raising your kids for you. We should no longer send our children to Caesar. As Vodi Bakum said, we cannot continue to send our children to Caesar and be surprised when they come home as Romans. So homeschooling is a great way to free your children from the clutches of the teachers unions once and for all, and also allowing some of that money that you're already paying into the system to follow the child would be a step in the right direction as well. Although homeschooling has basically doubled since pre-pandemic levels, which is a huge win, that's still a very small percentage of the total population. We still have about 90% of kids in government-run schools. We need to allow for another escape hatch, allow the funding to follow the student. It's your money. You shouldn't be forced to pay twice, once through the tax system and again out of pocket, either for private school or for homeschooling expenses. You should get your money back. We should fund the student, not the system. And the Parent Revolution explains how we can continue the march forward towards education freedom. We're only getting started, and it's red states right now. But there's good hope that blue states will start to expand education freedom too once they're forced to do so.
Yeah, and even some Democrats, as you mentioned on my radio program earlier in the week, even some Democrats are backing now school choice. But in the red states and in these areas where there have been legislative wins, have you seen any disconnect between providing these options and families who currently have kids in public schools not taking advantage of them or not necessarily being convinced that they should pull their kids out of public school, even amid all of this evidence of inculcation and Marxist indoctrination.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a while for people to switch, right? Because there's huge transaction costs associated with switching your kids out of a school, right? It's disruptive, but at the same time, there are parents that are more mobilized than ever. If you look in Arizona, before they expanded to universal education freedom accounts, they had about 10,000 students benefiting from the initiative back in 2022. After they expanded the initiative, now there's about 70 to 80,000 families using education savings accounts, taking their kids' education dollars to the private or homeschool that works environment that works best for them. So that's a lot in a short amount of time. It's not all, a million kids in the system, but at the same time, the teachers unions, they're going to say, look, this is going to hurt the public schools. That's not true at all. There's 29 studies on this subject, 26 of them finding that school choice is a rising tide that lifts all boats, actually improves the public schools. And it should also give them an incentive to focus on the basics, on education, as opposed to indoctrination. So school choice can be a win, obviously, if you're voting with your feet and you have the power to do that. But it can also be a win without you even exercising that option, because it gives you more authority. When you go complain to the school boards, they'll be less likely to cut off
Mhm.
your mic and call you a domestic terrorist, and they'll have an incentive to actually listen to you.
Right. And it should be an incentive for parents to look at their options and be able to take advantage of the parental rights that this legislation protects. So the book is The Parent Revolution, and we'll be right back with more. In perhaps a humorous headline, but really shows the expanse of the leftist Marxist policies taking over the entire Western world. This headline coming from the BBC saying that squatters at the $13 million pound Gordon Ramsay pub defend occupation. Squatters who have occupied a Gordon Ramsay pub in central London want to open the grade 2 listed building to people who could, quote, previously not afford to visit. It is believed at least 6 people are occupying the York and Albany near Regent's Park. In a statement posted on social media, the group said it was aiming to set up an art cafe. The building is currently up for sale with a £13 million price tag. Gordon Ramsay Restaurants, which is the leaseholder, has been contacted for comment by the BBC. So joining me now is Jeff Hunt from the great state, well, formerly great state of Colorado, my former home state as well, who is a writer and a radio host on Salem Media in Denver. So Jeff, it seems like this kind of ridiculous law breaking is just happening all over Western culture, and the leftists are amplifying this.
Yeah, first of all, Jenna, the irony is so rich here. All right. Gordon Ramsay, known for Hell's Kitchen and Kitchen Nightmares, is living his own nightmare with these squatters in his kitchen. And look, it's ironic because he was known for kicking people out of his own kitchen. He got kicked out of his own kitchen by squatters now. But look, listen, I've got good word that this is actually the launch of a new reality television show. Okay. Dog the Bounty Hunter and Gordon Ramsay are going to team up, and they're going to go to squatters, and you have to compete in a cooking contest. And if you lose, Dog the Bounty Hunter finally kicks you out. No, I mean, this is insane, right? So this is my big concern. And this is where I think it could really go wrong. So college students all over America have learned that Uncle Joe Biden will cover your tuition for you, right? He's going to forgive all the student loan debt. Well, now if you just go into a pub or a bar, you can get free housing, you could be a squatter there, and maybe somebody will cover your bar tab as well. So no, the irony is just amazing in this particular case. But look, just this week in Colorado, the governor, Jared Polis, got rid of occupancy limits on housing, occupancy limits. So you're now going to have houses with 20 people, 30 people on top of all of these squatters issues that our country's facing. Now we're in bizarro leftist Marxist land where people can just take what they want. It's amazing. And the irony with Gordon Ramsay is just too thick to even believe in some cases.
Well, I hope that out of this headline, Jeff, we get, one of those famous Gordon Ramsay kind of rants that's going in and yelling to the squatters. That would be a great setup for the reality TV show that you mentioned. But, so I say this is kind of a humorous article, but really, it also is tragic and it's unsustainable in
Yeah.
terms of the leftists suggesting that, I mean, what does this come down to? If you want to go and hang out at a bar past closing hour, they can't kick you out now, and you have to, and you can say that you're just going to squat and then drink all of the rest of the alcohol and leave whenever you want. I mean, if there is not an enforceable law for something as important as real property, then where does this end and where does our culture go?
Eventually you run into reality, but I have a little bit of a solution here for Gordon Ramsay. And anybody who's ever been to a bar past 2 a.m. knows how to get people to leave. There's a special song out there by Semisonic that says, you don't have to go home, but you just can't
But
stay
you
here.
can't stay
So,
here.
that's right. Just play that song, and then people will move on, and maybe these folks will get out of there. But I mean, no, it's a sad state of affairs, and eventually reaches the elites, and maybe that's when they finally wake up and try to solve these problems that are affecting everybody else.
Yeah, well, Jeff, I think that you have outed both of us as older millennials because we both know the Semisonic song that was, back when I was in college, and so that's really I haven't heard that one in a while, but now it is playing on repeat in my head and probably will the rest of the night. That's okay, but in terms of the policies that even Denver, where you're currently at right
Yeah.
now, they're experiencing that this isn't sustainable with all of these quote unquote newcomers. No, they're illegal aliens, and saying, hey, the opportunities aren't here. Go to New York, go to Chicago. We'll even bus you to Canada. And Denver was one of the first sanctuary cities in the country. And now they're kind of regretting that. And so, where can conservatives actually make a difference? Because clearly reasoning with these crazy leftists isn't helping. So, what are some of our solutions to maybe articulate the lesson before they have to learn it the hard way?
Yeah, let me give you an example of what's happened in Denver. So the mayor of Denver is now providing $90 million to illegal immigrants, quote unquote newcomers, to have rent covered in apartments for 6 months. In addition to that, you get 20 hours of legal service, and they hand you a debit card with money on it for groceries and for personal items. They'll also provide workforce training for you so you can get a job eventually. The amount of government services being provided to illegal immigrants is shocking. And they're creating these problems themselves. $90 million that wasn't in the mayor's budget is now being spent on illegal immigrants. So they're cutting services from taxpayers in the city of Denver. Look, it's all unicorns and rainbows when you want to serve people like this. Oh, yeah, sure, we'll provide housing for you. Come on to Denver. We'd love to have illegal immigrants here. But eventually you run up against math, and you just can't operate this way. Reality hits you in the face, and you have to adjust accordingly. I hope that the people of Denver, of Colorado, of even Gordon Ramsay, come on, Gordon, I hope you'll wake up to what these leftist policies are doing, because they affect real people. And when it does hit you like it hit Gordon Ramsay, you've got to adjust this stuff. You got to address it. So I hope the elites will finally wake up. It's like when the rioters finally reached Beverly Hills. Well, then now we have to do something about it.
Yeah, and finally, when those illegals hit Martha's Vineyard, then they kind of said, "Wait a second, now we have a problem," when it actually affects them. But I also hope, Jeff Hunt, that we can have some kind of legal solution as well for the taxpayers who don't want to contribute toward this, because this is where taxation actually is theft. When you're taking money from the taxpayer and you're funding these illegal aliens and all of these government subsidies that we shouldn't be paying for. And we, just had tax day, and I don't think the vast majority of conservatives or common sense Americans want our taxpayer dollars to be going toward that. But that's a legal argument for another day. We're already out of time for Jenna Ellis tonight. Have a great weekend. I will see you Monday.